Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Felix here. It is the 30th of April. So I'm just coming in to do an energy update for what we've kind of been going through and where we're kind of going into. It's been a very full-on month, to say the least. But at least there's been a whole load of real good positive change that's kind of come from it as well. So just before we kind of get started, I'm just going to touch base on a couple of things that we've got coming up during in May. So we've got on the 6th of May is Self-Care Monday at 6 p.m. On the 9th of May, we've got the Psychic Healing and Development class, which is at 6 p.m. And the group grid this time has been moved from the end of the month to the 16th. And this is because I'm going to be going away on the 23rd until the 2nd of June, something like that. And I need to have that cut-off period where I'm just kind of doing nothing really. And just to kind of enjoy some time by the sea. On the 13th of May at 6 p.m, I've got I'm running a polarity integration field recalibration, because this has been one of the major themes that has been coming up through April through to May, after we've had like a whole load of upheaval, which I'll get into momentarily. As well as on the 23rd of May at 8 p.m. From my hotel room, I will be doing a Field of One update. So we're going to be working with the Unified Field of One, and this is more so going into a fifth dimensional perspective, whereas the polarity integration will be a development from a third dimensional to a fifth dimensional kind of awareness as we kind of alchemize all these different things in between. So I will write on the event page what I would normally write is give a kind of description of what I'm going to be doing within that, or what we will be doing collectively within that, as a means to kind of update everything. So yeah. Okay. So this month has been really full on, as I've kind of said. We've had so much alchemical transmutation of the root chakra that's been repeatedly coming up over and over again. And this is absolutely to do with purpose. Now, I'll have to kind of go back to the very start of the month, when I think it was about the 2nd of April, where I saw the frequency, the light and the geometry and the spiral of the Emerald Order coming in and merging with the cosmic clock. Now, this, I had no idea what that meant at the time, but I just kind of went with it and kind of maneuvered through. And then as I was kind of processing and looking into the meaning behind the cosmic clock and the kind of where we've kind of been running and connected into kind of artificial timelines or lunar matrix timelines, which have been kind of tied us into lower experiences of reality. That has been a kind of fundamental theme that has been triggered from this point. So from, I won't say triggered, but it's an acceleration of this kind of shift consciousness from a lower timeline, lower perspective, artificial or synthetic timelines, into a higher strand organic formation. So this recalibration of the cosmic clock, or this elevation of the cosmic clock from a lower density into a higher density, or lower dimension into a higher dimension, whatever you want to say, has been the fundamental key theme of April. Now, what kind of also occurred with that is we've had numerous layers of we've had numerous layers of really deep restructuring of the mind, and deep healing that has also appeared, which has really kind of started around February with the Chiron going conjunct. But at the same time, we've also got Pluto in Aquarius, which came into my awareness again yesterday, which kind of tied in a lot of the understanding as to why we're kind of going through this whole reconstruction of the way that we think, the way that we perceive, and of the way we kind of are. So with this big reconstruction, it's bringing on massive change within the root chakra, which is holding us into a kind of fragmented egoic persona or an egoic mind, which is then tailoring our reality to kind of fit that fragmentation. So as we've kind of had all of this really deep deep reconstruction being pushed through us, we're then able to kind of look at what is not kind of resonant anymore within our kind of identity. Now, as we're kind of also in the month of Aries, or the time of Aries, that also, or we were, which is an interesting story actually, because we were, but we also still are, in the sense of a lunar zodiac imprint and a solar zodiac imprint, which is a different story for pretty much a different time, but it also links into this as well. And I'll get to the reference with that in a bit. So, lost my train of thought already, you know. So where we've kind of gone through all of this massive upheaval of reconstruction of the way that we're thinking, the way that we're perceiving, this is then having a kind of downstream impact over the past couple of months, having a downstream impact that's kind of targeted through the root to pull us out of all of these layers of deep insecurity that's kind of situated through the root chakra. Okay, so that root chakra alchemical transmutation has been the key theme of this month. And it has been specifically designed for us to pull us out of this separation perspective, third dimensional separation perspective, which has then given us the tools and the keys to elevate the perspective into a fifth dimensional unity consciousness, or the field of one. Okay, so through the month of April, whatever month it was, this huge shift of alchemical transmutation of the root has helped us kind of reposition ourselves within the cosmic clock, reorder and resequence the cosmic clock so we can actually access more of a solar energetic imprint, which is more fifth dimensional aligned, and it's giving us more access to the true perspective of our reality and of our kind of environment that we're in, really. So that being said, within so within all of that restructuring of the root, the upheaval that's kind of come with the shift of perspective has then given us the ability to go through all of these kind of loose ends. So where we're feeling kind of tied up within polarity in our own minds and within the collective field, which usually kind of just kind of sits through the collective field, and then we tap into that or connect it or have been kind of tied into it somewhere. It's given us that opportunity to see from a different perspective as to kind of how to dismantle and alchemize the polarity to become the polarity integrator. Okay, so what would that kind of look like as a polarity integrator? I mean, we're looking at levels of extremity, left versus right, red versus blue in America, and kind of working to understand the common goals between the both, and then understanding what they both need, the ideas and kind of fluctuations of emotion, what they need to kind of come back to the 0 point. So if we can kind of work to train ourselves in integrating the polarity spectrums, we should be able to kind of be able to take a step up and to see it from a neutrality viewpoint in order to not be pulled around by the ebbs and flows of opposition consciousness. Okay, so let's go a little bit further into this kind of polarity integration. So within that kind of level of polarity, we're looking to find the balancing emotion that holds. So say if we've got one of anger and hatred, we want to kind of use in unconditional love to kind of add a support layer underneath the anger and the hate. Now, this is very basic kind of stuff. We bring the one with the other, and this starts to repair the more volatile frequency and to bring into harmonization. Now, when we've got that initial base level done, we can then take it up a notch and start to look into the common themes between the polarities. So the emotional side is just one part, but then dealing with the mental side of things and understanding what the perspective is of the opposition, this is really core for developing the multidimensional, multi-perspective presence within, which is the key to moving out of kind of third dimensional consciousness and into fifth. Because when we kind of hold that limited perspective of either it's black or white separation, we can never really kind of find a common ground. Or if we do see the perspective, it kind of shuts off and then the people start to drift away, which on one side is fine. And another side, it's not really kind of being able to accept another person's perspective or point of view. So when developing the underlayer of the emotion and bringing that back to the 0 point, this releases the energetic attachment to what your belief system or what their belief system is kind of harboring, and you're able to kind of accept them for how they are, who they are, what they are. And then in that, we're able to kind of reformulate and kind of move forwards in a way where peace sits at the forefront, really. Okay. Okay. So behind the layers of working out the motives and the intentions of the other side, what is it that they are kind of doing with it? It's important to kind of monitor the internal process that's going on within yourself as well, because a lot of the time, as we're kind of working through polarity, we can get highly kind of triggered within it, and this will be the area where we're kind of holding our own level of opposition and being unable to kind of accept and see things from a neutral stance, and also kind of holding up barriers and walls against the belief systems of others. So once we can kind of process the emotional and mental side of things, we're then able to kind of synthesize the trigger points within your own system, and then allow the acceptance to start to flow, really. Okay, and the whole purpose of this, obviously, as I've said already, is for us to kind of level up the perspective, to level up the fifth dimensional awareness, so we're able to kind of pull ourselves out of the lower form of timeline, well, not the lower form, but the the more contorted, restrictive timelines of kind of separation consciousness. So in order to kind of work through that, we're then developing this field of one. We're developing this oneness perspective and aligning ourselves to kind of unify through the field of one. Okay. So in order to kind of develop the field of oneness, we need to really kind of dig right into the alchemical transmutation of the root. And as we're kind of understanding the processes of what's kind of gone on over the past month, we can kind of see how from the 21st of last month, so around the equinox time, and then going into the lunar eclipse, everything started to really dial up. A lot of traumas were kind of coming through to the surface. And then as we graduate towards the solar eclipse on the 8th of oh my god, the 8th of this month, sorry. The 8th of this month, the 8th of April, everything dialed up and became very, very, very haywired afterwards. And then we went through about a 2-week period up until I think it was the 20th of April, 8th to the 20th, maybe it was 2 weeks, near enough. So that 20th of April, Taurus, Jupiter conjunction, this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus, this landed us as a period of expansion. So through those, through the intensity of the 2 weeks, what kind of happened within that is the collective went through such an intense purge. Myself, I couldn't even kind of go into the fields because it was too uncomfortable. I could do healings on other people, but I couldn't really do it on myself because it was too chaotic. So this was a really kind of interesting time of feeling like I need to do something, but being unable to kind of process it and actually do it. So it's within those kind of periods that I had to kind of dig up the understandings as to why I couldn't do it and why I couldn't kind of process my own stuff. And this actually led to quite deep insecurities of being unable to cope and unable to manage. But fundamentally, it's kind of finding like the core reasoning behind why I couldn't do something or why I couldn't kind of process, and that kind of shifted and changed all of the layers within my system so I could actually kind of release it and let it go. Now, another interesting factor within that was that after I'd kind of dealt with my stuff at the start of the 2 weeks, what I then noticed was the insanity levels coming up around the collective field. Now, within that, what I've been finding is that it has been so numb and at such a standstill that it just kind of had to effectively sit and again do nothing. But this was the interesting thing, because by the end of it, what I could really get a sense of was this kind of feeling of being stuck in a rut and being unable to kind of navigate or move through the ability to kind of do anything really. So it was interesting that right on the 20th, when Jupiter and Taurus and Uranus went conjunct, that's when everything burst open, and this liberation kind of sensation and feeling like we actually could kind of move was the kind of drive that got everyone kind of moving forward. So we were kind of stuck in a big soup of trauma for about 2 weeks, and everyone I was speaking to was kind of going through something one way or another. A lot of kind of being pushed to cope effectively, being pushed around to the point of being able to find themselves, being able to cope within the insanity, really. And that was the kind of levels of the kind of the root update, I would say. It's not in so many words, but yeah, it is very much tied into kind of working through all of these deep levels of insecurity to be able to find a balance in coping and proving to yourself that you can actually manage it. So this then ties all the way through into the masculine blueprint, and where the weakened masculine has been quite damaged into the fact that it doesn't have the ability to kind of hold boundaries, doesn't have the ability to kind of vocalize needs and expressions as to where it's kind of not having its needs met. This has then been kind of flipped on its head to kind of stabilize that level of self, and find the courage to actually be able to say, do you know what, I can kind of handle this now. So and that has been the perspective shift out of victimization and into a kind of level of strength and sovereignty. So this whole shift of perspective has been the core development of April, to really level up how we kind of see ourselves, how we see our own identity, and how we see our own kind of personality complex within that. It's been a shedding of the skin. It's been an absolute kind of upgrade to how we show up in the world, I guess, which has been a test, but a good one. So I guess taking this kind of information in now and understanding the healing side of it and what the purpose was behind this massive upheaval, we can then kind of be in gratitude for this leveling up of perspective from a 3D perspective into a 5D perspective, and therefore into a kind of 5D way of life, because it's not going to be like you just flip a switch and it just changes over immediately. You've got deep structural issues that are kind of coming up for review in order to elevate the awareness and to see above the trauma, what's going on down here. You're looking on from maybe like a bird's eye perspective down into here, and through this kind of leveling up of awareness and leveling up of perspective, you can then take it into a multi-dimensional viewpoint and kind of connect to these different parts of you that are within creation, and allowing yourself to observe from that perspective. What does it look like to observe from the creator perspective? What does it look like to observe from a founder perspective? What does it look like to observe from a 12th dimensional perspective, in order to unlock more truth behind your reasons, meanings, and the kind of patterns that you kind of have been and habitually locked in. So it's good to kind of just work with these new abilities that we've kind of been developing and bringing online, because that is fundamentally your truth, really, when you can kind of pull in the higher and higher perspective to see how it's kind of been impacting you on all of these different levels, and then take it back down to the third dimensional level and kind of align all of these new perspectives. This is what helps you kind of shift out of the pain body, out of the trauma body, and it also gives you a kind of a new persona to, or a new perspective persona / body to kind of view from, so you're able to kind of transcend the pain body, transcend the emotional body, and be able to kind of work through these layers of the self which have been kind of really stuck before in the past. And I think that's the kind of really important factor to this month, and also to your whole journey of healing and journey of ascension and what have you. It's, yeah, being able to kind of flip the perspective and kind of empower yourself in the process. No, you've got a tomato quarter. So to be honest, I thought I was going to be speaking a lot more this in this video, but I really don't feel like I need to. I feel like it's kind of short and sweet. We've all gone through through a lot of shit this month, and we've come out the other side knowing that we actually can, and we can tolerate it, and we can withstand heavy amounts of energy. Some are going to be more sensitive than others, and some are going to find it a little bit more difficult, but hopefully this video will find you in a way where you can kind of integrate these different perspectives and kind of update your own field, update your own system within that. Oh, okay, so the Emerald Order Cosmic Clock stuff and this zodiac imprint as well, this is kind of significant and important. I was kind of guided, well, all through this kind of month has been heavily coming up on all this kind of zodiac stuff and zodiac information, which I don't really know a lot about, to be honest, on my conscious mind, but I was guided to look at some things on the Ascension Glossary about the zodiac alteration, which then I found tied back into the Emerald Order Cosmic Clock stuff. So this was really interesting, and you can find this on like the Ascension Glossary or on think on energetic synthesis as well. That should be kind of tied into that, which are under one umbrella, really. So this Emerald Order Cosmic Clock stuff has initiated the move, which is also tying into the timeline jumping, 3D, 5D perspective jumping thing, where we've got the lunar zodiac imprints, which is basically a 12 base template of 12 signs of the zodiac, whereas the solar imprint is the 13, which holds Ophiuchus. So this actually changes all of the dates to the to the zodiac timelines or the zodiac date systems, and it actually gives us 13 full moons, or an equal amount of time between each sign. Now the 13th sign is Ophiuchus, which would actually be my birthday, and having this new new sign coming in. I'm sorry, my mind keeps on coming in and out of flatline at the moment as I'm getting lots of information coming in, so it's digging up a whole load of stuff. So as this new sign has kind of come in for me, and we're going through this 3D to 5D shift, the element of Ophiuchus is water. Now, my previous sign would have been fire, or my lunar zodiac sign is fire, which a lot of my personality traits still hold, but as I move more into my spiritual work, I'm becoming more water in my elemental body. So this has been quite interesting to kind of see how the processes of alchemy are kind of taking place, and the changing of personality as you kind of shift up a dimensional scale is your personality or your zodiac elemental imprints will change as well as you kind of go through this. And this is all kind of like drawing the dots together right now. So it is kind of confusing, but it's also kind of cool at the same time. So the zodiac imprint of Ophiuchus is, I really, really don't know much about this, but this is just kind of what I'm being shown at the moment, is more so about the building of the Kundalini. Is the spiritual kind of mechanics of the body. within alchemy. So it holds, each month will hold a significant meaning to a specific part of the body, which has a layer of processing that's done. So within Aries, which ran from the 19th of April to something like the 20th of May, according to the solar zodiac, solar zodiac thing. This is the process of purification and calcination, which effectively is, we've got a heating up of the body, heating up of the light body, which is then kind of destabilizing blockages within the system for it to heat up and start to move out of the light body. Now, this process, as we can kind of see, is the first stage of the alchemy, basically. And it's all tied into the personality, it's tied into the kind of first sphere of the tree of life, and all attached to how we kind of perceive ourselves in an identity perspective on within our reality. So as I've been mentioning, which I know that I'm very jumbled today because there's so much kind of going on and so much moving through at the same time, we've kind of had this identity level upheaval that's come through April, which has then transmuted the root and then brought us into a place of polarity integration to develop the field of oneness, 3D to 5D, elevation of perspective. And yeah, it's basically pushing us into our new zodiac imprint, which is kind of confusing, but I recommend you go on and just have a look on the Ascension Glossary on that topic, the zodiac imprints, just to kind of get a better explanation of what I've tried to do. Because yeah, this month has just been so full on. And I think there's so much layers of confusion and kind of the blockage upheaval that's kind of come about from this month has also made things a lot more confusing and amnesiac in the ability to process cognitive information. So we could see this as kind of ascension symptoms, which I don't really go into that much, but through the process of us kind of evolving, we are releasing all of this dead weight, these blockages, that when the blockages kind of come up, you've got multiple emotions held within this, but then there'll be layers of numbness, layers of amnesia, layers of kind of distortion held around that, which makes it very hard to see. This is why they're blockages. They're the blind side of your consciousness, the blind side of your energy system. And these are kind of being drawn up to the surface to be processed, but when they're amnesiac, how are you able to kind of see them? How are you able to understand them? And it does really take a lot of time to kind of break them down and process them, which we're going to do a quick meditation momentarily, which should actually kind of help with just unlocking the blockages. So let's just, I'm going to love you and leave you there, but we'll do a meditation in the process. Thank you for sticking it out. I know this video has been a bit confusing and a bit jumpy around. Hopefully next month it should be a little bit more coherent. But again, this kind of matches with the frequency of April, I would say, or it has done for me. So, okay, let's go ahead and take a couple of breaths in. And we're just going to settle down into the heart, working with the emerald light tone, Yokora Tamana Shiokora, and expanding the emerald light all the way around the body, above, below, through your quantum sphere. Holding focus on the light, which as you focus on the light, this starts to bring awareness to the shadow, it starts to unbuckle and unlock information in your field. Okay, and as we're kind of Accessing into the light side of things, focusing in on the light, you may then start to feel layers of resistance coming up. Where you may start to feel tightness coming through the body, tightness through the head, through the face. And we're just going to start accepting the tightness and we're just going to surrender into the resistance. And through the surrender, this then starts to unlock the fear behind the resistance. And you want to look at these layers as you're processing them. Holding an element of detachment within that. No, it takes time to practice this detachment level because what kind of happens is you need to process your relationship with the emotion first and how you are interacting with the emotion. So where I always kind of stand with this is, am I this emotion? Is this me? And fundamentally, the answer is no. If it's outside of unconditional love, it's a no. Or bliss, it's a no. So if it's bliss, if it's unconditional love, then it's you. If it's fear, if it's resistance, if it's stubbornness, it's a no, it's not you. And you've got a tomato order. So it's understanding who you are within that, okay. And when it starts to separate out through the identification process, this gives us more reasoning to read the field from a neutral perspective because we hold a detachment level within that. Okay, and then from that, where these resistant layers or the fear layers or emotional layers are kind of attached to will be an aspect of your personality. And we want to communicate directly to that part. So let's set the intention to send this part of you unconditional love. And we're going to reverberate that love through the heart center of that aspect because it is you. You're then able to kind of still process emotion through it, still process love through it. Okay, and you may find yourself going a little bit avoidant within that as well. And this is okay. It's just a case of like how much you're allowing yourself to feel, how much you're allowing yourself to kind of process consciously, and how much you need to just kind of take a step back and allow it to unconsciously move. And as you kind of continuously feed this part of you, this aspect of you, unconditional love, it starts to shed energetic information that will tell a story about why it's holding the resistance, why it's holding the fear, or what's kind of going on within that part of your mind. So within the processing of this information, sometimes it can feel like you're kind of hitting up against a brick wall because the information that's being projected back to you from this aspect can be somewhat existential. So we're looking for the theme behind the existential kind of wound. Okay. And we're going to just bring up a kind of example behind this. And this can be the theme of judgment and the wounding is being judged for just being. So this theme of being judged for just being, we're going to break this down further and we're going to understand what it is that's working through you, what's being processed through you within being judged for just being. What's it doing to you? What's it pushing you to do? And it's really behind that, it's kind of pushing you to be accepting of yourself and not to place external validation on those outside of you and their impression of you or how they treat you. And this kind of touches base into so many different areas. We've got a whole history of feminine abuse for just being persecution. We're looking into kind of fragmentation layers of separation, and also looking into the wounds of kind of homosexuality, being judged for just being. So as we kind of just start to address the growth levels, the trauma of the 3D of being judged for just being, to find acceptance in oneself and not to place external validation on anyone else, this pushes us into a perspective above the trauma and into a self-sufficient, stronger environment within your own root. Which then allows the kind of pain of the growth agreement, the contracted growth agreement, where you've kind of pushed yourself into a state of evolution, or you've contracted yourself into a state of evolution to become self-reliant and self-validating. We can let go of all of the trauma tied to all of these other people that did the judging. And then we're also going to take that reflection from the others and then put it back on ourselves as well, of where we have done the judging to others, because there is always a kind of projection mirror experience with these layers of trauma. So one does one to the other, one does one back to the other. It's a butting of the horns, really, until you're able to look at the trauma, or able to look at it from this kind of perspective. And as we kind of reach this conclusion, we'll just allow the whole body to become so much lighter. The whole energy system is updating, the whole body feels light. I'm going to update through all fields, update through all localized grids, move to seal forward through all levels or layers of light, through all bodies and through the breath of the divine I am. I'm going to thank you all so much for sticking it out on this one. I know it was very confusing at times. It was for me. I had to even pause the recording and just get myself together. Because yeah, it's we're still in quite a lot of volatility at the moment. So yeah, which should kind of ease off a little bit on the 2nd of May. So with that, I'd love to see you at some of the events, and I'd love for you to have a wonderful month of May and a wonderful Beltane festival. Happy blessings, many blessings, lots of love. Bye everyone.